Good morning, everyone. It's me, Rory Paddock, for RacingDaily.com. It has just gone 8 a.m. on Monday, the 10th of March. We've got around 30 hours to go until the first race of the festival. I'm going to be looking ahead to all of the 7 races on Tuesday. So without further ado, let's get stuck into it. First race of the 120, and the red hot even money favourite is Kopek de Burg, trained by Willie Mullins, who's obviously got a hat full of runners over the 4 days, all who have very strong claims. Could he get the festival underway with a winner? Well, the bookmakers certainly think so, as do lots of punters who consider Kopek de Burg their banker of the meeting. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think you can be overly confident about a horse in novice company. It's not going to be a case of remortgaging the house, but it's the clear and obvious favourite. And it is that for a reason. That being said, although I do think Kopek de Burg will win, there's another Willie Mullins horse that I think might be drastically overpriced in the same race, and that's Irancy. JP McManus doesn't often own a bad horse, and this runner won its last race, and the form has been somewhat franked. The horse looked quite novice last time out, so you should expect quite a lot of improvement. And in what looks a very open race away from the favourite, I think Irancy could certainly finish in the money. Currently priced, I think, around 16 to 1. That's way too generous for a horse that's bred well, has done very little wrong in its career, and has that progressive sort of space to improve, judged on its last performance. Irancy as an each way alternative to the current red hot favourite. I actually think owner JP McManus is going to have a cracking festival. I've actually gotten in touch with Paddy Power with their request a bet service and asked whether or not they can give me a price on the green and gold, getting at least 6, if not 7 or more winners across the whole meeting. You will see a running theme with this owner on Tuesday in my selections, so hopefully JP will have a big smile on his face come about 5:30 on Friday with a ton of winners under his belt. We move on to the next race, the second race of the meeting. And another JP-owned horse, Majbra. Now with Sergino not going to the festival, Majbra should, in theory, have a clear passage in this race. The rest of the opposition, although they're relatively decent, I don't think they're quite as classy as Majbra. And I think Majbra, who's a previous festival winner, should take all the beating. Odds-on favourite. I know it's a bit boring, but there's not much in the way of an alternative. Django Bay might do something for the Henderson Yard, but I don't think it'll beat Majbra. Majbra should be the favourite to be on there in the 2 o'clock. We then move to the 240, and it's the first handicap of the meeting. It's the Ultima, and I've gone for 3 horses at double-figure prices that I think could go well. First up is Henry's Friend for Ben Pauling. The Pauling Yard are starting to fire. They always know how to get their horses ready for the festival. Pauling has had horses win in chase handicaps before here at this meeting, and I think they've got a cracking chance here of doing something similar with Henry's Friend. Irish Raider Melina's Girl represents the Gavin Cromwell Yard. The horse has placed in its last 2 starts, and I think could go close again at a decent price. And, believe it or not, another JP McManus-owned horse, this time in the form of Crebley, who's done well previously at this meeting. I think Crebley had multiple entries. I actually preferred the horse for a race later in the festival, but he's not going to take up that entry. He's going to be running here. I think he still has a really strong chance of going well. Of the 3, I'd probably say Crebley is the one I like the most, but small stakes, each way play in what looks a very open handicap on those 3. We then go back to being boring, and another odds-on shot that I think is going to be really tough to beat is Lossy Mouth. She's tried the champion hurdle route, fell last time out, and I think although it makes the champion hurdle perhaps not as competitive, I think it's the right decision. She won this race last year. She aims to retain her crown. Richie owns. I think this will be one of maybe one or two Richie owned winners this week. I actually don't think Richie has a stronger hand as he had at previous festivals. But in terms of a banker or his best chance of a winner, I think Lossiemouth is it. Nearest rival is a stablemate who I don't think is up to the class of Lossiemouth. They'll be looking to atone for a relatively poor-ish season this year for Lossiemouth, and I think she can claim the mare's hurdle once again. Again, I know it's a bit dull, it's a bit boring, but she's odds on for a reason. She's the one to beat there in the mares. And then from one odds on shot to yet another, although believe it or not, I think Constitution Hill's current price of 8 to 15 is actually quite generous. I don't think you're going to get anything like that come the off at 4 o'clock tomorrow. With Lossiemouth now out, it's great to see brighter days ahead, giving her a shot at the champion hurdle. But I think even with the £7 weight allowance, Constitution Hill is already somewhat of a superstar. If he goes and wins this race again, he'll take his stardom off into this absolute stratosphere. Nicky Henderson, obviously very bullish after his prep sort of outing at Kempton. Constitution Hill, the one to beat in the champion hurdle, and it'll be very, very tough for any horse to do so. We then go to the 440, and would you believe it, another JP McManus owned runner. Beyond the Dreams isn't the JP's, shall we say, first choice in this race. It's not the first string, but represents Joseph O'Brien. Joseph loves to get the odd winner here at the festival. Perhaps hasn't been as strong in terms of his representatives over the last few years as he's been in previous years at the festival. But Beyond the Dreams, very lightly raced, won its last contest, hasn't got an abundance of weight to carry, and I think could go well at a fair enough price. Also in the same race at much bigger odds, I actually like the look of Soul That Drive. Was a bit disappointed when fourth last time out. Prior to that, looked to have shown decent promise. What I would say about its last run, however, is that they were handled with sort of care, weren't given a really tough race, and I'm kind of hoping that's an indication that they had this race in mind all along. Perhaps just needed to do enough to ensure that they got into this contest, and they're going to go full out come 4:40 tomorrow. Currently, I think it's around 33 to 1, 40 to 1. Again, it's not a case of sticking a massive bet on it, but I think small stakes, each way bet for this horse to perhaps pick up a bit of place money, especially if you find a bookmaker that's offering 5 places, maybe 6 places. That should be decent there. And then the final race, the 5:20, it's the stay and chase race. And I like the look of Jericho Rock. Now, Jericho Rock is actually sort of being a bit slept on, I think. Currently around 12 to 1 at the time of recording, which is just after 8 o'clock. The horse finished second in the Ultima last year, but yet still remains a novice. Is putting some really decent chase performances without necessarily finishing with the head in front. Clearly likes it here at Cheltenham, which is a massive plus. And I think Martin Pipe's charge has a really good chance. The market doesn't necessarily suggest that, but that just means bigger odds, and hopefully, if it comes out on top, a little bit more money in our back pockets. And the other horse that I like in the same race is Kintara. We've seen these silks go well for this owner at the festival previously. Finished fourth in his last 2 races. I wouldn't be too put off by that. I think this race was the plan all along, and the horse just needed to keep up to date with its fitness and be fresh, ready for this race. Kintara, again, as with the horse in the previous race, decent big price, small stakes, each way play to pick up some prize money. So these are my selections for day one. You see them on the screen. We will keep a bit of a tally throughout the festival as to how well these do, just as single bets. But I've also gone and done an alternative bet for day one. Obviously, you've got your 3 short price favourites in there: Majborough, Lossiemouth, and Constitution Hill. But I've also thrown in another 4. I bet these to finish, or the top finish bets, with Paddy Power. So In the 120, I've got Irancy to finish in the top 5 at 11 to 10. I think that's probably a better, stronger bet for the horse to finish in the top 5 than just to back Cobec de Bourg at a shorter price just to win the race. Then in the third race, I've gone Creberly for a top 10 finish at 8 to 11. And then in the final two races, Beyond the Dreams for a top 8 finish at 8 to 13. And Jericho Rock for a top 7 finish at 5 to 6. The sevenfold pays just over 33 to 1 at the time of recording. So I'm going to be backing them in the sevenfold. But just like the classic adage that you back a short price favourite or any sort of backer, there's always one that lets you down. I'll be throwing a few pennies on those horses in sixfolds. So just on the off chance one doesn't deliver, then hopefully the other 6 do. Those are my bets. Again, those prices were correct at around 7:45 a.m. this morning, so just over half an hour ago. Another thing I need to get you draw your attention to is we are running a 2025 Cheltenham Festival prediction competition. Entries for this close at 1:15 tomorrow, which is Tuesday, the first day. So you've got up until 5 minutes before the first race to get your entry in, completely free, and you can win tickets to next year's festival. So please make sure you head over to racing-daily.com to get your free entry in. I've been Rory Paddock. Those are my selections for day one. Fingers crossed, touch wood, and good luck if you follow.